Premier League results show, week 6. These matches were played last Saturday on the 22nd of September, and yesterday the 23rd. Let's start with Saturday's games, and the early kickoff was at Craven Cottage. Fulham entertaining high-flying Watford. Well, Watford got off to a great start. Gray opened the scoring after 2 minutes, and throughout that half they were in control. Fulham were somewhat naive defensively, and they struggled to avoid going further behind. Watford, if anything, were guilty of some missed chances, but Fulham's goalkeeper Bettinelli was denying them a second. He denied Gray on 2 occasions. The second half was a different story, and Fulham certainly improved. Their passing game started to gel, Sessegnon started to look good, and Mitrovic was causing trouble for the Watford defence. And it was him who deservedly got an equaliser on 78 minutes, nipping in at the near post to flick the ball past from a cross. That was how it ended. Honours even, 1 each, probably about fair. Okay, on to the rest of Saturday's games. Burnley at Turf Moor, home to Bournemouth. On paper, Burnley struggling, Bournemouth looking good. Well, how often does this happen? Burnley completely dominated the first half. Bournemouth were completely out of sorts, and goals by Vidra on 39 and a second from Lennon on 41 took Burnley to the break in a comfortable 2-0 position. Howe obviously had some words to be said at the half-time break. Bournemouth came out in the second half, and to be honest, they dominated possession. But Hart was once again strong and determined in the Burnley goal, denying Bournemouth those opportunities. The longer it went on, the more it looked likely that Burnley were going to get that elusive win. Well, they made it absolutely sure after Barnes came on as a sub, because he connected on 83 and 88 to flatter the scoreline a little, although on the balance Burnley deserved it, 4-0. So they're out of the bottom 3. So to South Wales, Cardiff were at home to the champions Manchester City. Manchester City obviously were going to respond after that indifferent performance in midweek against Lyon. So it was looking ominous for Neil Warnock's troops. Well, they held their own for the first half an hour, although City virtually dominated possession. But on 32, Aguero made the breakthrough. That was quickly followed by a second from Bernardo Silva. And on half-time, Gundogan made it 3-0. The game was over. In the second half, it was a case of how many. And Guardiola brought on Mahrez on the hour, and he converted with his first 2 goals for Manchester City on 67 and 89. The manager praised Mahrez in interview, and the score was about right, 5-0. So back to the drawing board for Warnock and Cardiff. Next up, we'll go to Selhurst Park, and Crystal Palace were at home to Newcastle. Now, after last week's interview by Sahar about the fact he wasn't getting sufficient protection, he was awfully quiet in this game. And because of that, Palace really had no cutting edge. There was very few chances, and the quality of the football was pretty average. Newcastle offered nothing up front and seemed content with trying to get a draw. The only real chance came to Sacco in the second half, when it would have been easier to head in, but his header went wide. So predictably, it ended in a goalless draw. Now to the King Power Stadium, and Leicester were entertaining Huddersfield. Now Huddersfield's lack of goals has been a big issue for Wagner. But you wouldn't have thought so when they got the opener on 5 minutes from Jorgensen. However, Leicester didn't take long to equalise. Iniacho, his pace is quite electric. He latched onto a free ball and levelled for the Foxes. So we went into the second half, but clearly Leicester had the upper hand. And eventually, Maddison, from a free kick, hit a sweet strike to put them 2-1 ahead on 66. Vardy added a third on 75, and Leicester deservedly got the win. More problems for Wagner. So to Anfield. Liverpool looking for a record 6th win. Could they do it against lowly Southampton? Well, once the own goal by Hodo went in after 10, Matip followed up with his first for Liverpool on 21, and right on the break, following a wicked free kick from Shaqiri, Saha forced the ball over the line when the ball came back from the crossbar. So that was it, 3-0 at the break. The second half was completely forgettable, but Liverpool ran out comfortable winners. Problems continue for Mark Hughes. Interestingly, Shaqiri, who was selected from the start, was taken off at half-time after he'd played 45 minutes of a really attractive football. If I was him, I would be a little bit miffed at Klopp. Anyway, right, to the last game, the last one game on Saturday, and this was at Old Trafford. It was Manchester United at home to Wolverhampton Wanderers. The Old Trafford faithful gave a round of applause, which lasted for about 10 minutes, for Sir Alex Ferguson, who came to this game, the first game he has attended since that problem with his brain hemorrhage about 6 months ago. It was absolutely fantastic to see, and he was welcomed like a father. However, once we got started, the team couldn't match that enthusiasm. They looked very jaded, and Wolves, full of attacking flair and looking compact with good passing, took the initiative and were far better in that first half. However, United did open the scoring on 18 minutes. Across from the left, a neat piece of control from Pogba, who just nudged it in the way of Fred, and he converted with a sweet strike, 1-0. Into the second half, and Wolves continued to be the better side, and they deservedly got a equaliser with Moninho, I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation, hitting a sweet drive on 53 minutes. United hung on for the draw. Wolves will be happy. Brighton against Spurs at a rain-soaked Amex. This game never really got going. The conditions were dreadful, I must add. Eventually, after a poor first half, Kane converted from the penalty spot to give Spurs the lead. They were trying to bounce back after that really dreadful collapse in Milan in the Champions League. into the second half, and it didn't really get much better. In the first half, there was only 2 shots on target. Anyway, as the second half progressed, it looked like we had seen all the action, and then on 76 minutes, Lamela swept in a neat cross from the left to make it 2-0. Okay, now Brighton have made a habit of coming back from the dead, but on this occasion they left it a little bit too late. Knockaert did get his name on the score list on 93 minutes, but quickly after that the full-time whistle arrived. So Pochettino relieved, Spurs back on a winning track. Now to Sunday's games. Well, we started off at the London Stadium, where West Ham, rejuvenated after their win last week at Goodison Park, entertained high-flying Chelsea. Chelsea had only got back from Greece on the Friday afternoon. They had a problem with travel arrangements. And so 36 hours on, they were out again. And to be honest, they looked a little jaded. However, they did have Hazard, and he continued to cause havoc. Although the Hammers still were without Hernandez, and Arnautovic also sidelined. Their defence was very strong, and Hazard really didn't get any clear-cut chances. So we arrived at the break goalless. Into the second half, it was much the same, with possession to Chelsea, West Ham on the break. However, they did have their best chance to win it when Avamalenko missed a gilt-edged chance heading wide with the goal gaping. So anyway, it finished off at goalless. Chelsea's 100% record gone, but they've still got 5 wins and a draw out of 6. Finally, we went to the Emirates for Arsenal versus Everton. Arsenal, like Chelsea, had played Europa League, but and they certainly looked like they played Europa League. They were bereft of any sort of ideas. They looked a side that was disinterested. So Everton took the game to the Gunners and were much the better side in the first half. Walcott, playing against his old club, was sprightly, and Richarlison, back after his 3-game ban, was strong and dangerous, and he had a few half chances. However, Arsenal struggled to the break, and it remained goalless. As for Ozil and Ramsey in that first half, I can't remember spotting them at all. So we moved into the second half, and the game was much the same. And then all of a sudden, on 56 minutes, the ball came across the Everton penalty area, and Lacazette latched onto it. He gave himself a yard of space and flashed the ball high into the top corner. An extraordinary effort. So that was Arsenal in front, very much against the better of Everton. No sooner had we sat back down than within 2 minutes, a break down the right, Ozil crossed the ball, Ramsey completely missed it, and it fell invitingly to Aubameyang, who sliced it into the net. It was a clumsy effort, but all of a sudden Arsenal were 2 up, and the game was basically over. Everton's heads dropped. There was little rearguard action from them. Arsenal continued to push the ball around without any cutting edge, and we disappeared towards the final whistle with Arsenal winners by 2-0. Silva was furious about Arsenal's second goal, which was clearly offside. Okay, so that's the end of week 6 of the table. On top of Liverpool with a 100% record, 18 points. Manchester City and Chelsea are behind them on 16. In fourth are Watford on 13. My team, Manchester United, are on 10. That's basically 3 wins, 1 draw and 2 defeats. At the bottom is Huddersfield, Cardiff, Newcastle, all on 2 points. Now, as regards the goal of the week, I'm going to give it to Maddison for Leicester. That lovely free kick on 66. Okay, that's your lot. We'll see you next week.